Thank you, William, for the introduction. My name is Alon, and I'm part of NLP Hub and the team in AI Singapore that is in charge of building such open source tools in the NLP area. So today, as mentioned, I'm gonna introduce to you the new platform from NLP Hub, which is SG NLP. We launched it at the beginning of the month. And I'm going to share with you, or at least our plan for today would be that I'll start by sharing a bit about the background. Why did we even build the platform? Why do we think it's useful? Introduce the platform to you. We'll have a short demo. Go through the website, see how actually you can use the platform. Then we'll share a bit about how we envision the product being used, go through a couple of use cases, and I'll hand over to our lead engineer, Jonathan, to share a bit about our development journey and some technical challenges that we faced along the way and how we dealt with those. And that will be it for our part. So without further ado, I'll dive right into the background. So to whoever of you are dealing with NLP problems, you know that usually those are not straightforward problems. We generally didn't yet to find an algorithm that can solve all problems in the world, but specifically also in NLP domain, problems tend to be more specific and require customization for any application that is being used. And even given that, we're still living in a relatively fortunate time that we can leverage open source tools such as B.Sc, Hugging Face, Alon NLP and the models are being shared among all practitioners for us to use and allow us to focus more on the implementation and the application for our problem, experimenting with them, rather than worrying about if we implemented the paper correctly or if we did, and if we understood the concepts. Ideally, also, but not everything is implemented through those tools. And a lot of times we go to the literature and read papers from this domain. And ideally, each paper would come with an API that we can directly use. But more often than not, this is not the case. And we do have to build sometimes things from scratch. In a way, this is where we come in, and we aim to bridge this gap, help bring cutting-edge papers, research, models, and make them more accessible to the public. And we do so because we are in a position as AI Singapore to locate those gaps in the industry and try to bridge them and help the industry to use more NLP tools, more NLP models, and to leverage the technology to create better businesses. And then why do we think this is a good idea to do? And specifically, why do we think it's a good idea to do in Singapore? So as AI Singapore, admittedly, we have interest to promote local NLP researcher and research and translational research. But having said that, we're coming into a domain that is already rich in NLP research. We have strong universities and prominent researchers that are publishing every year in top conferences. And you can see here in the world, it's a very high place, high ranking, sharing, publishing every year. But the problem is not all of those models are getting enough attention and are being able to put into use. And again, this is the gap that we are aiming to solve or to bridge. And as we also envision that as the space becomes more tech savvy and people are using AI technology more and more often, there will be a need for a place for people to come, collaborate, share what solution they have in local context, and we aim to build this platform for people to contribute from all, from both the research community and from the industry, and sort of a place for everyone to share and collaborate. And we'll show you exactly how we envision that to happen. But this is generally the idea behind AI Singapore, and this is how we started. And without further ado, we'll just I'll share about the platform. So all the ideas and the background that I shared, we distilled into a vision, which is to make models from Singapore NLP research groups more accessible to practitioners and to the industry. And we hope this will lead to a closer collaboration and more opportunities for translational research. Basically, either by using the models that we from the research community that we publish through our open source platform, or by striking a collaboration between the researchers and whoever was exposed to that model through our website. Next up, I'm going to share with you our interactive demo website where we share the models. So this is the website. Here we have our intro and some legal information and a way to contact us if necessary. And on the left side, we see different categories for NLP problems. And under each category, we have the models that we implemented from different researchers in Singapore. You can go through the models later and each use case and try it out for yourself. For now, I'll just run through a short example. So this is the model, a short explanation about what it does. We have some example input, but you can basically put here anything that you're interested to test the model on, and then you run the model. This model is quite straightforward. It's taking a text. This is running live, of course, so whatever example you could put in, it executes on that. And it gives the original form of the sentence on the left side and the corrected ones on the right. If you wish to learn more about model and understand more about it, then we have the model card tab, where you can find the paper, some basic information about the model, what is the input, output, what is it supposed to do, a use case, and a way to contact us at AI Singapore or get to the source code where we took the code from. Of course, it's all coordinated with researchers. If you want to learn more about how to get in touch with us, so first we have on the right side, we have a discussion forum. So if you have any questions, queries, some topics you want to discuss on NLP, you can bring it up there. Visit our website where you can see other products that we're bringing to light. And of course, the documentation, which looks like so. So this is the welcome page. And if you wish to have a quick start and see how to use a specific model in a very simple way, how to install the package, it gives you that information. And when I refer to the package, it's actually a Python package that you can load, use, and train all available models on SG NLP. And it looks like that. There's also a link here to the documentation if you wish to learn anything more about that. And lastly, I would say that this is, of course, we plan to still grow this platform. Currently, we have 4 categories. In the next couple of months, we plan this to be doubled. And in future, we hope the community will also be contributing, research groups will also be contributing, and this will become a place for people to share ideas about NLP and NLP models for the community to use. Okay. And now I'll move into the use cases part, where I'll share 2 use cases on how we envision the product is being used. First is about optimizing customer service. And the scenario is if you're a company that's launching a new product, and in this case, you want to get quick feedback from your customers. If there's feedback or negative feedback, you want to correct this thing, implement any new features. So you want to get it fast, and you want to get specifically the one that triggered specific emotions for your customers. Or alternatively, if you're managing customer service, then a live chat, a call center, or actually you're training such customer service agents, then you also are interested in specific to find the insights or the parts in the text that give you most information that you can tackle. The challenges, as it happens so often, is that you have limited resources. It's either yourself or you have a small team handling that, or you're in charge of training. And when reviews or feedback is piling up, this is very difficult to scale if you do it manually. So, of course, as in anything, we wish to automate. And in this case, we suggest automating recognizing the cause behind specific emotions in conversations or text. And to do so, you can use one of our models, which is the emotion entailment one. So for conversational tools, under the category of conversational tools, there is emotion entailment. And if we go here, you can find 2 models, one for emotion entailment, one for the span. Again, you choose the model. If there are a few, you can choose an example or input yourself. Here is in a conversation between A and B person, and you run the model. And the results will be shown here again. The target utterance is the last one, and currently it's limited to anger, but the paper itself doesn't limit it to anger, and we'll be opening the other emotions as well. And for your specifically here, it's about a road scenario, and the reason that someone is angry can be found like, you didn't give me enough time to change lanes. Specifically, other examples can be that this one will be in our demo as well. In this case, it's not anger, it's sadness, and you're really it's a real letdown. And why is that? Because my girlfriend's speaking ill of me. And in the scenario of a random Amazon product review that we got online, if you input it into the model, then you're angry about a specific product, and it gives you a possible utterance that shows why are you angry about this model, what is the cause behind that, helping to automate and maybe extract the parts of the text that you were most interested in and speeding up the process. And now you want to use it. In that case, you'll go back here, and under the model usage tab, you can find the code that you need in order to run this on your side. You can train it, of course, on your own data, customize it. And we try to make it as simple as possible with a short example here in case you want to run this toy example. And if you need more information, so on our documentation, there are advanced tutorial where you can find 2 of the models and a more elaborated use case on example on how to use this, explaining every part of the implementation. So as we saw, the model usage tab and the documentation for those two. I'll quickly run through a second scenario, which is legal documentation analysis. So if you're, in this case, you're working in a law firm, frequently faced with the challenge to either extract information regarding specific entities that are repeating in long texts, or are you trying to find precedents for various cases or scenarios? And again, you have a deadline by the end of the week, and you have limited resources, and the scale or the number of documents you have to go through is really big, and you wish to automate this one. So for this case, one possible models or two models actually that can help you speed up the process could be the relation extraction and the core reference resolution one. This is actually a two-stage solution. One deals with core reference. It's under the knowledge mining category and relation extraction. The first part finds core reference named entities, which means that if a specific entity is mentioned in a text multiple times, so that model helps you tag those entities, either a person or a place or a company, and gives them number. And whenever you hover over one, the others will be highlighted as well, even if it's not all in the same form. It's a full name, can be only the first or last name of the person, and it helps speed up the process to find all the mentions of that entity. And the second part is the extracted relations. So here is where you reside, your date of birth, but this, of course, can be other relations. There are more relationships mentioned or implemented in the paper. But in this case, you need help because for instance, there are relationships that you're looking for, like company being merged or bought, and those are not implemented in the original paper, and you need more. So in this case, again, if we go back and we see under knowledge mining, the relation extraction, and this is not enough. So of course, if you're in the field and you understand and want to learn more, you can find the paper, go in, read the paper, understand more about how it's implemented and how you can take it one step further. Alternatively, you can contact us or you can contact the research group. The information is usually within the paper, or you can contact us. The information to contact us is either here or at the bottom of every page on the platform. And we can either strike a collaboration between you, the company, and AI Singapore, help you implement a model for your specific use case, or you can strike a collaboration with a research group that did this work and ask them to elaborate more to build a specific solution for your use case. So this is like an example for the information about how to, in the top of a paper, how to reach out to the research group, and this is how to work with us. And of course, as we mentioned before, you can reach out in the community forum and with any question about related to NLP, and we'll be happy to help you through there. Yeah, and I will move give the speaking to Jonathan, my colleague, which was leading the development of the product, to share a bit about technical challenges along the way.
Hey, thanks, Alon. So I'll now do the technical sharing for the project. So this section of the talk goes in depth into the technical details of our work. So for those of you who are actively involved in the development of ML applications, you might find this part relevant and interesting to your work. So I'll be covering how we went about our Python package design, tech stack we used, the architecture of the application, how we managed our deployment, and general development experiences. So one of our first tasks was to decide on how we want our open source Python package to look like. So we believe in the KISS principle, which is to keep it simple. So we don't want to create another framework for folks to pick up. So we looked into a few of the popular NLP libraries such as Alon NLP and Hugging Face for inspiration. So ultimately, we went with the decision of using the interfaces from Hugging Face's Transformers package. So some of the reasons include that it is a light wrapper around PyTorch and TensorFlow, not very highly opinionated, so very customizable. It is already quite popular among the NLP community, and it has a very nice and simple interface with helpful utilities. So next, another big part of our work is to convert some research papers code to fit into the package. So one of the challenges is that research code is often written with a slightly different intention. So the aim could be to get an improvement in a certain metric. So sometimes it leads to the model not being ready to be used in a general sense. So it could be like pre-processing and model steps not being very clearly separated. So training and model configs are tangled together, and it might be difficult to save and load easily as well. And of course, each researcher has a different coding style. So for someone who wants to get into using this, some of the researchers' code, it can be like there's a steep learning curve to it, and you might be deterred from doing so. So what we want to do is to refactor this code and unify the way it is being presented. So of course, the design is heavily influenced by the Transformers package, as I earlier mentioned. And we also do our best to reproduce the results that are reported and indicate the results of the models that we train in the model card section of the demo page. So now let's take a quick look at some of the key classes and interface we have in the package. So during training, we have things like the training config. So this should include like parameters on how a model is trained, such as learning rates, batch sizes, epochs. We have model config. So this is which is used to construct the PyTorch model. So we should keep information that concerns the model, such as layer sizes, types of layers, or activation functions. And then we also have the preprocessor. So it's just something that will take the data in its original form, or whatever form it was in the data set, and returns a Tenzer dictionary. So things like tokenization and other forms of preprocessing happens here. And then the model should be able to take that and then return an output. And all these things require some form of state that needs to be saved so that they can be later loaded again for inference. So all these classes and objects have some method for you to use to easily save and load them. Now, of course, later during inference, we will not require the training config anymore, but saving it is still useful, so we know how the model is trained, and ideally we want to be able to reproduce the same results with the same training config. So then for inference, sometimes we have an extra post-processing step. So this is an optional class. Because some models are complicated and can't be easily interpreted, whereas in some cases they can be, such as a simple binary classification problem. So in the cases where it is hard to interpret, we recommend adding a post-processor to change it to a more understandable form. So, but even then, it can still be complex and difficult to understand, and this is where the demo website comes in. So the demos are designed to be visual and help users easily understand what the model actually does. So let me cover how the architecture works, so how this web application is done. So we deploy on a Kubernetes cluster. So there is a single entry point through the ingress, and depending on the route, you redirect it to different services, such as the UI or the APIs. So this is also known as a reverse proxy setup. So what happens here is that we treat every model as a separate service, and we can scale the number of pods running if we want to fulfill a higher load demand. So now I'll cover the tech stack that we used. So we use React and TypeScript for our front end. So this is a typical front end tech stack. So though we did start with JavaScript, and we felt that using TypeScript was actually helpful in organizing and understanding the code. The backend is something relatively simple. We use Flask for the backend APIs and Unicorn to run the server in production. And we have our SG NLP package, which makes use of PyTorch and transformers to load and run the models. Another big part of our project is how we handle deployments. We make use of GitLab CI/CD to run tests, build our Docker images, push them to registries, and deploy them to the cluster using Kubernetes cluster using Helm. And we also have the Azure Blob Storage, where we host our weights and configuration files that are available for the public to download. So in the following section, I'll cover the points that I felt were important during development. So first of all is to make deployment easy. So we only built all our pipelines for our model APIs in the second half of the project. And before that, there was actually a lot of pain and time involved for individual developers to try to build and test locally. And so having the pipelines for the model API being ready improved the development feedback cycle. So our CI/CD steps are fairly straightforward. So we run tests to check if there are breaking changes, build the images and push them to the registry, and we run the Helm upgrade command to apply changes to our deploy environment. So we also make use of multiple deployment environments. We have a staging environment, which is available to the dev team to test changes. We encourage devs to use it for their own testing. Then we have the production environment, which is a stable environment that we only deploy to after testing on staging. And then another question we had was whether to go with Flask. So ultimately, we went with it for its simplicity, but there are many question marks on whether it can deal with scalability issues. But we decided to solve it through the Kubernetes configuration, so like what I mentioned earlier. Yeah. So of course, there are also other model serving options that we will briefly discuss soon. So some of the benefits of Kubernetes is that we are able to easily scale the deployments if needed. Also, there are no downtime during deployments if properly configured. So yeah, and if we want to use a more advanced model serving framework, they typically have integration with Kubernetes cluster. So things such as Seldon, KF serving, Rayserve, they're all model serving options that can handle much higher loads. But for our current demand and load, Flask together with Kubernetes is sufficient. So another challenge we had is having many models to deploy. So here's an image of how some of our model pipelines look like in the GitLab CI. So to effectively manage the deployment process, we make heavy use of templating tools such as JSONnet and Helm. So the use of such templating tools let us reduce the duplication of code and configuration, and we can more easily manage it across the various environments that we are deploying to, such as in staging and production. Yeah, so that brings me to the end of the technical sharing. Now I'll hand the time back to Alon, who will conclude the presentation.
Thank you, Jonathan. So I'll take this opportunity to thank the team that worked and developed this platform and still does. So as I mentioned, Jonathan led the process. Benedict, which helped Jonathan in leading the development, is currently answering some of the questions that you guys are asking. And Raymond and Jet Chong, that I hope are watching us today as well. We're also part of the AIP program of AI Singapore and worked on this platform. as I mentioned, we continue to develop it. And so I understand also in my previous, when I showed the demo site, the text might have been a bit small on your screens. So I hope this gives you extra motivation to go and visit our platform. The address, the link is here, and we'll share it later in the comments as well. I also want to invite whoever is might be interested to work on such problems in machine learning generally and NLP specifically to apply, because we are hiring and recruiting more for our growing team. We'll be actually launching another NLP product in the coming months dealing with Southeast Asian languages. So stay tuned for, if you want, you can subscribe to one of our channels and hear more about it.